Welcome to the Kings Beat podcast. I'm James Ham, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the Kings Beat. Joining me, Fox 40, Sean Cunningham. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic, fellas. I think the rain is gone for now. It's really cold outside. Why do we always start with weather? I think it's because I don't know.
I don't know if there's a we here.
It's me. I know it's me. It's
Yeah.
definitely me. I will say, no, it's very true, though. My mood changes by how the weather goes. And if it's dark and gloomy, I just don't want to leave my house at all. I've told you this. And when it's bright, sunshiny day, kind of like it is now, although it is cold, I want to be outside. I want to enjoy the warmth. It's just not warm, so I could go back to bed.
There we go. Okay, and then, of course, we're also joined. He's back. We almost lost him today, but he's
Almost
back.
lost him.
Brenden Nunes from the Kings Bulls
Jesus.
podcast. There we go. Brenden, how are you?
I'm good. Appreciate you guys doing episode 100 without me. Sorry that I couldn't make it, but as expected, you guys did great. And you guys are the two OGs anyways. It was kind of fitting. And yeah, I've had a busy couple of days, and today was not an exception to that. So I'm doing all right.
Can we talk about it?
We can.
We need to document this. We can document it here on the podcast. So Brenden is going to call the police here soon, as soon as he's done with the podcast. Because
Are you okay?
Yeah,
I am
let's
okay.
get to it.
Yeah,
Walk
10
us
minutes
through it.
prior to our start time, I'm on the way back from a little Taco Bell run. And
Jesus Christ,
yeah.
Brendan.
somebody decided to pull over and park on the side of the road. At least that's kind of what it looked like, what was happening. And I'm driving past them, going the speed limit, semi-residential area, and they end up deciding to make an illegal U-turn straight into my car, and airbags went off and all that, and my back tire's all screwed, and my car made it back to my friend's place that I'm at right now while I'm 11 days in between my apartments, this little in-between time. So a lot going on. Everybody's all right, but a little bit of shock, and we're about an hour removed from the car crash, but here to talk about the Kings.
Fender
Brendan?
Bender Brendan.
Brenden, yeah. What neck brace, Brenden? We should have had neck brace, Brenden. These things happen. I haven't been in a good one since 2014. We were discussing before we got on here, but that happens. I'm sorry you got to go through that. And
Well, the good news is, you have, they have insurance, and everything will be able to be taken care. No.
no,
Nope, uninsured.
Oh,
She was
goodness
going to get insurance
gracious.
today, though, Sean. So
I believe her. I
do too.
believe that. I think she was U-turning on her way to get some
yes,
She
insurance.
said, "Oh, there's the insurance store. I just drove past it. Let me U-turn to go
I
back."
decided to get some delicious Taco Bell first, and then I was going right to the insurance office,
yes.
and I ran into you. That's okay.
Well, hopefully you're okay. Hopefully your buddy's okay. Who sounds like took the brunt of it in the passenger seat, right?
Yeah.
New car
put his hand
Brendan.
put his hand up to kind of brace for impact, and the airbag left him with a pretty nice bruise. But that's the full extent of it. So their
Did
car
you
looks
like
a
your
lot
car?
worse than mine does. I love my car, and it's still a fairly new car, so I'm not ready to get a new car.
Well, it's totaled, pal. When you lose those airbags, you have to go car shopping.
Yeah. Pretty much done there. So
Excited for that.
all right, well, let's get to another car crash. The Sacramento Kings
Oh,
lost
that's mean-spirited.
110 to 107. What is today? Wednesday night in Miami, and this is going to be. I think punches might be thrown here. This is it's a standard day of covering the Sacramento Kings, where we're looking at for the last 2-minute report all day long, because Sean may disagree, but they got jobbed, in my opinion, and I think a lot of people watched the replay of the final shot made by Tyler Hero, and that was an egregious travel. And I know Sean disagrees.
No.
It was again. I watched the play
Egregious, James.
500
Egregious. We've seen egregious calls, like the one that comes to mind or no calls, I should say, is the Mike Bibby forearm that Mike Bibby took from Kobe Bryant. That was egregious. This is a missed call. That's all it is.
The guy's
and in
8 feet away watching the play unfold, and it took like an extra 2 seconds. Like I take issue with that.
You see worse calls throughout a game. Tyler Hero made a play. I mean, it's not egregious. It's a missed call. It took me a replay to see that, it looks like there's a travel there. The guy still made a play. And in real time, I don't see the travel, personally. If I'm looking for the travel, I guess I see it and on the replay. In real time, in the moment, I didn't see the travel. So Kings fans can come at my head and be James can get T-shirts to James, I guess. But no, maybe Brenden can be the third party here. He knows what that's about after being in a wreck today. Did you have any third parties? I guess your buddy would be the third party.
Oh yeah, there you go.
You need a witness, so you better get his account.
I'm kind of with Sean in a way. I think between the two, like I didn't recognize it live for sure. They're also in the TV angle, like the ref was in the way of Tyler Hero's feet, so you didn't get a great view of that. But in the replay, it was really obvious. Like in the replay right away, you're like, that's a travel. And I think it's telling that Mike Brown apparently noticed it right away and was talking to the refs in live time about it. And it was obviously just really telling the extent that Mike Brown kind of went in on the refs post game. And it wasn't just about that call. It was about all the calls that they have or have not been getting throughout the course of the start of this season. Sabonis coming into the game was the leader in fouls per game. And Mike called a really interesting challenge at the end of that second quarter that was Sabonis's first foul, but felt almost as if like a little, I just do not want this guy to get any fouls after everything we've dealt with in the previous games. So I didn't think the travel was horrible. I tend to focus more on like, I thought the Kings just played a pretty bad game leading up to that. And maybe they shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place. But lifetime, I didn't mind it not being called a travel, but I definitely see why when you're looking at the replay that coach was pretty upset.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Brown is going to lose some cash in this situation. He's going to lose Brenden new car money in this situation.
He's not worried about it either. I mean, he made the conscious effort to come out and stick up for his guys. I mean, look, his starting center has been the victim of some pretty weird calls, some ticky-tack things throughout the first opening week of the season, and I think he used it as an opportunity to be. And I think if you really dissect what he said, it's not so much that that's Tyler Hero and he's Terrence Davis and there's some star treatment there. It's, no, that's the Miami Heat and we're the Sacramento Kings, and maybe it's just predetermined that you don't. And again, there's people who wanted that call reviewed. You can't review a call because there was no call, so you wouldn't be able to look at that. You wouldn't. It's non-reviewable. So you'll see in the last 2-minute report, I'm sure it's going to say that there was a travel. I expect it, but we're talking about traveling in the NBA, guys. You know how that little that gets called anyway?
So that game, there was probably 30 travel calls.
I mean, both sides.
Both sides. Like, they've given up.
Yeah.
You remember Nemanja Bjelica got called for like 8 travels that one year early in the season and was like, man, it's Nemanja Bjelica. I mean, he's got lead feet. Like,
yeah,
the dude's out there wearing cement boots. He traveled. But now it's like the point of emphasis. The point of emphasis is like one of the biggest garbage things of all time. It lasts for about 2 weeks, and then they're out the window. You're like, whatever happened to that point of emphasis on this or that? And, you know, like for those of us who get to watch the officials go through every year, although they didn't do it this year, and they show us the point of emphasis, but say, like, this is not for reporting purposes. This is just so you understand the point of emphasis for this season. And so we watch the video, and they don't make them specific for teams, but it felt like every time we had to sit down and watch it, it was Willie Cauley-Stein on the video, like almost the entire time. Like, here is the point of emphasis for this season. And it's like, hey, look, there's Willie doing something he's not supposed to be doing. And then the next clip is Willie Cauley-Stein. You're like, oh, again, these aren't team specific. It just always seems to be Willie. But like, I don't buy it. Like, if you're going to make the game like officiated by guys who are professionals, you have to be able to look at that play in the final couple of seconds of a game. It's like not being able to review a touchdown. They review every touchdown now. In that situation, like you probably should have some mechanism in place where you can look at the play to make sure that everything's kosher.
No, no, no.
Yes.
We're just gonna stop everything. Okay, let's go look at this play.
Well,
See
in
if there's
Sacramento had no
anything.
timeouts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
Right.
another mistake. Yeah.
Again, guys, just move on. It's it didn't cost you the game. Yes, I get it. The guy hit a big shot. Like there's travel all throughout that game. If you watch De'Aaron Fox, how many times that guy travel when he's driving to the basket, on the gather, everything. It's guys, it's traveling. Tough shit. Move on. Move on.
Yeah.
You split the season series with the Heat. It came down to a final play.
That's pretty good.
I don't know. I mean, it's sour grapes. Again, I don't think it's the refs are out to get Sacramento. I truly don't. Maybe I'm in the minority. I know there's like an inferiority complex every time Kings and the officials come up. People love to jump on the officials, and sometimes it's warranted. Last night when they had that game, I didn't see it in real time. I didn't, and I think most people probably wouldn't have either. It just sucks. Sorry, he made a hell of a play.
Tyler Hero said post game that it was kind of like the Jordan Poole thing. I don't know if you guys saw the night prior, the Warriors played in Miami, and Jordan Poole got called for 3 discontinued dribbles, just carries, and which is pretty crazy. Like you see them all the time. One of them was pretty egregious, but the other ones, like, I don't know, they happen all the time. And to Tyler Hero's point, he's like, it's like the Jordan Poole thing. Like you could call a carry every single possession. You could call a travel every single possession if you wanted. So I understand that for sure, but I also get why Kings fans are going to feel a little salty about that.
Yeah, and Malik Monk got called for it in the game on a fast break, and it was clear. Like he palmed the ball and walked like 4 steps and then put it back down as he's going down court. So I definitely saw that, and so I get it. I totally do. I'll ask this question though: should Mike Brown have waited until Game 7 to unload on the officials? Because for my money, like I've been watching every game and I'm waiting for that moment where he doesn't just call a challenge, but he unloads on somebody and gets a technical to defend his guys. Because I get the defend your guys thing, but when your center is leading the league coming into last night at 4.7 personal fouls a game, and per 36 he's at 5.8, and he's fouled out of 3 of the first 6 games when he fouled out of 3 total last season. And then your point guard, who is one of the league leaders in finishes at the rim, is down to 4.4 free throws per game, and he can't buy a foul. Like, should Mike Brown have said something before this? And I get it, like the frustration level is like boiling, but like in game, he needs to make one of those motions where like look, I'm done with what you guys are calling here. This is it's egregious. And like, let's back it up and try to defend your guys in the moment.
I'm fine with what he did. I mean, I think I would ask, are you wanting him to get thrown out of the game? Get a technical? I mean, I think a technical for sure would have been warranted at some point, but I think this was more political, and I think it was better because I think, look, there's a lot that's been going on. I know De'Aaron Fox called out the amount of times he'd been to the free throw line a few days ago. He's not playing right now. I think it was a good opportunity to use this as an example, like I said, to show your team that you're sticking up for them. It'll cost you a drop in the bucket for these guys, and it didn't impact a game. Mike Brown doesn't want to give points away, so I think there's probably moments he could have taken a technical or could have, I don't think he should be thrown out of a game because these games are really just too valuable right now. And you also don't want to do it too early because, especially like in maybe post-game media sessions, you don't have officiating can be a little rough to start the season. So now you've got a little bit bigger sample size, a couple games under your belt. Your team can send the league examples of maybe some calls that you were pissed off about. And you've got a few games now to choose from, and now you've got your message across. Yeah, there'll probably be you'll be a little bit lighter in the pocket, but again, drop in the bucket. You did the right thing for your team. One of the players will probably pick up that fine. They make more than the coaches typically anyway, so I would expect Domantas Sabonis probably to walk over there and say, "Here's your money back." I think all will be good with the Kings, and I think Mike Brown is picking and choosing his spots, and I think he did the right one.
Yeah, I like to hear it from Coach. I mean, I think like waiting 7 games is certainly not a long time. And to Sean's point, like I think that refs tend to be a little whistle happy at the beginning of the year, and I think that it's easy to fall into, like, since we're just watching from Sacramento's perspective, that they're getting the short end of the stick. But I think there's a lot of teams in the leagues that will feel that way. A lot of different people that cover teams or fan bases and things like that. Like, I think that there were calls in some of these games that we're talking about that Sacramento got some pretty tough calls that they got some whistles in their favor as well on the other end. So I think it's kind of somewhat the nature of it, but I like that Mike Brown is coming out and saying something, because as you guys said, the Sabonis calls had been ridiculous. Fox needs to be getting to the line more often, I think. Mike also pointed out in that presser yesterday when he talked about the travel that he thought Harrison Barnes got fouled on a play or two prior, leading up to that game-winning shot. So I don't mind Coach waiting, if you want to call it waiting. I think that this was a fine time to say something, and we'll see what actually ends up changing, if much of anything, really.
And you know what? The last 2-minute report has just come out.
It just confirmed it.
Yep. Incorrect non-call, right?
Yeah.
Don't we all feel better now that we know? Last 2 minutes reports are just amazing.
Yeah. It is what it is, I guess. It's, it's expected. I haven't looked at the whole 2-minute report. I'm going to guess that there's one or two other incidents here of, maybe not, of incorrect calls, because that's usually what we get is some balancing. But yeah, let's move on. Actually, I'm going to tweet this out. Last 2-minute report confirms that Tyler Hero traveled on his game-winning 3-pointer.
I can just kind of lead us into the rest of the Miami game.
There
if
we
that
go.
Works all right. I thought that the Kings played a pretty poor offensive game. Like, I thought that this was a little bit of a different game than what we've seen. There was no De'Aaron Fox, still dealing with that knee issue, which we'll see how long he ends up being out for, but it doesn't sound like it'll be that long, as you guys touched on in the last episode. And I thought that with Fox not out there, and this is something that he talked about previously after one of their last games, that when he and Domas aren't in the game, it's just kind of like they don't have anybody that can hit the paint every single possession and then make plays from there and kind of bend the defense. And I think that we really, really saw that with De'Aaron not being a part of the lineup. Davion played great in Charlotte, but it was kind of just hitting a lot of jumpers, practically every jumper. His only missed shot was that dunk attempt where he tried to throw down over, I think it was Mason Plumlee. But really early in this game, and specifically like that second quarter, the Kings scored 19 points. I thought that they just couldn't hit the paint, and they missed De'Aaron Fox so much on the offensive end.
Yeah, you put out a stat, Brenden. What was your stat about points in the paint with Fox?
Yeah, let me find it again real quick.
45.2% of the points in the paint come when De'Aaron Fox is on the court, something like that?
Yeah, when Fox is on the floor, 45.2% of Sacramento's points come in the paint. When he's not on the floor, only 33.2% of their points come in the paint. They're taking the least amount of field goal attempts per game in the restricted area.
Sean, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I think it was just an adjustment that Miami made, and specifically not having Fox out there makes life a hell of a lot easier. I know they did without Jimmy Butler as well, but I think they made some adjustments in there and did a really good job of forcing things out. Look, I mean, De'Aaron Fox is the part of the two-headed monster. As luck would have it, Domantas Sabonis was a hell of a lot more impactful, and his foul trouble was non-existent. Keegan Murray struggled defensively in that game.
And offensively.
There's a lot of I mean, I didn't really have too much of a problem with the way he looked offensively. I mean, the Kings kept their turnovers down, and part of that was because the guy who usually initiates, one of the guys that initiates offense, wasn't there, and so the ball tended to stagnate a little bit more. But they were running some interesting little half-court sets. They weren't. I don't feel like the pace was up to what they would normally like. So it was an adjustment period. I think whether Fox plays on Saturday in Orlando or not, I think you're going to see that cleaned up a little bit more. I think there's going to be a little bit more emphasis on trying to play quicker and move the ball a little bit quicker. And I think we've talked about it in previous podcasts with when you have Davion Mitchell as your primary point guard, the ball tends to stick a little bit more. And part of that, I think, is just knowing your personnel. I think it's also Davion also being that type of player. He tends to dribble the ball a lot. He's a young player in the league that's also an older player in the league, so it's still a feel factor for him where you have to kind of feel it out. But playing off ball with Sabonis when you give him the ball, it can be a little bit trickier for him, I think, than I think he's playing better. I think he's certainly I feel like he's initiating quicker than we've seen, but it's still not quick enough. So it doesn't all fall on him, though. I mean, we saw 20 minutes from Matthew Dellavedova, and I think that was an encouraging sign as well.
Yeah, and I'll say I've been monitoring the pace every day to see where the pace is at. They're up around number 4, number 5 yesterday coming into the game. They dropped to number 10. They dropped like almost a full possession in one game, which just means that they were much, much slower than normal, like a good 6 or 7 possessions lower than what they have been throughout the season. And that's a problem. Like we've brought this point up a couple of times, but I'll make it again. It really does feel like a lot of these guys haven't played together, including Davion Mitchell with Domantas Sabonis. It feels like they haven't played together, and Davion doesn't really know how to play off of Sabonis like a lot of the veteran guys do or like Fox does. It's just not a natural thing for him. I don't think he's ever played with anyone like that, and it shows. I mean, it shows big time. And like I don't want to all the like blame on Davion for a game like this because I thought he was really good in the game before when he stepped in to De'Aaron's spot. But I'll also point out that what was the difference between these two things? The difference is he started, and so he tried to play within the flow of what was happening and not realizing that he just needs to go play. He needs to stop worrying about those things, and he needs to just go play basketball like he did the game before when he was so incredibly impactful. So I think that there just needs to be, like, I hate saying this, like you need more time in the pot to simmer. Like there's going to come a point where it's like, look, these ingredients don't work together. But there's also a point where you've got to be slightly patient. And I hate saying that because, for 13 years, like I keep saying the same thing. Like you probably should be a little bit patient and see if this team can figure it out. Well, this team should be better, not than 2-5 or whatever they are at this point, because their schedule has been difficult. But like they do actually need some time to grow through some of these issues that will pop up throughout a season.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to feel about again, I don't want to harp on Davion too much either, but like I almost feel like the difference between the Charlotte game and the Miami one was just shots going in. Like I don't even know that I loved his shot attempts in the Charlotte game. Like I think that late in the game he had 2 really big layups where he got to the rim that kept them in it, and I thought that he was great at that point. But like the whole not having played with Sabonis that much is, I think there's definitely a part of that, but it's interesting to me because like their offense doesn't change when Sabonis isn't out there. Like their offense is the same the entire time. And to me, it almost looks like sometimes Davion just decides to take matters into his own hands and goes outside of the natural like flow of the offense. And when those shots are falling, that looks great. It's just like that hasn't consistently been something that goes down for him. Defensively, he did his thing out there, obviously, but he wasn't the best passer out there either. I thought that Malik Monk was phenomenal passing the ball in that game against Miami, as he has been all year. So it's not a knock on Davion. I think it's just more so realizing how good De'Aaron is and that they just don't have another guy like him.
I'm still trying to digest, James, what you were saying with Mitchell. You said it's not working. Is that what you were alluding to? Because I think he's been fine. I agree with Brenden a little bit, although I don't see really much problem with his passing. I just think he's just not as quick to do it. He's not really turning the ball over or anything like that. So that part doesn't really bother me. But I just feel like some of the decisions can come a little quicker. I do think there tends to be some hero ball, especially a little bit later on. So maybe that's what we were kind of talking about. But yeah, James, what did you mean about not working?
Like in general, like
Yeah, because like I also feel that perhaps, and I know he's playing the role of a point guard. Like it's weird because I see him as like this combo guard a lot. Obviously, he doesn't have the size of being a shooting guard or anything like that. But in positionless basketball, like he's a capable ball handler, a distributor. He can play make, but it's probably not what he hangs his hat on, if you know what I mean. And at that point, then you better be a good shooter. He's a decent shooter. He's a very clutch shooter. But those aren't the things we're necessarily killing him for.
no, I'll say this, a couple of things off of what Brendan said and what the questions you've asked. I thought, first of all, he was absolutely horrific defensively. I thought he got absolutely used by Kyle Lowry last night. And so I'll just put that out there. Like, there's going to be games like that where you go up against a savvy veteran. He just got killed. I mean, Lowry had 17 points in the first half. Like some like adjustments were made, but like not until the guy had already just absolutely lit you up. He took him inside. I mean, his 17-year vet, Kyle Lowry's got to be 36. Like just used him. And so I'll say, like, again, defensively, I think he's been okay this season. He has not been like spectacular at all. And then the other thing I would say is, while they're running the same thing, this is where I kind of give him the break. Like, Richaun Holmes doesn't know how to do what Sabonis does, and it's not even like the passing skills. He's just not going to set the pick like the other guys are setting. He's not getting into the offense quickly. He's waiting. He's doing his rim running. He's standing underneath the basket, and then he's taken 5 seconds to go out and set the screen. And that's why we keep seeing guards go before he's there, because they're all sitting there with the 0.5 second clock in their head saying, I got to make a decision here. Where is my big? And he's not there. And it's the same thing on defense. He is not showing, like we went through this whole thing with the coaching staff on, remember, ice, where when a big comes out to set a screen and the guard's going towards the sideline, it's the big's job to force them to the sideline and wall them off, have both players wall the guard off. Well, he's not getting there. He's just letting the guy come around and getting used on the, like, with the guard coming downhill. A lot of times he's not even stepping up. He's just staying with his man and letting his man get screened off and going. So to me, it's not even that. I don't think it's an effort thing. He's just not moving quickly enough inside of their offensive or defensive sets. And I think it's like an adjustment he has to make personally. But that's where I give Davion in the second unit a little bit of a break, because I don't think they're playing the same offense, but they're playing with different pieces, and these pieces don't fit. And so it's very difficult to expect the same thing from a second unit when none of the pieces are doing the same thing that the first unit's doing, although they're running the same exact offense, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I also, I mean, to that point, like, too, I haven't felt like at any time that you're truly seeing a true second unit, if that makes sense. Like, you're not, more times than not, you're not really seeing 5 new players on the floor at all at any given time. I think they're doing a much better job in trying to keep certain players out there. It's easier to do when you have someone like Fox and Sabonis, but I don't know. I probably have to watch that a little bit closer, but I haven't had, to be honest, I haven't had too many problems with what Davion Mitchell's doing. It's early in the season. It's a lot of new concepts. I don't feel like he's on my radar as someone who's struggling.
Yeah, I think when it comes to like the second unit, I think they've tried to always keep one of HB or Keegan on the floor. And then outside of that, it seems to be like 4 bench players around them that like coach just slowly integrates into the lineup. Like, I think more often than not, we're seeing like Trey Lyles be that first sub that comes in for either Keegan or HB. And then the next sub will have 2 more guys, and then they'll end up taking one out. And all of a sudden you're at the bench 4 and one of HB or Keegan coming back in the game. And I think that second unit has not looked as good, but it's had its moments. I think that Malik Monk and Trey Lyles have been kind of the bright spots. And Trey Lyles more so recently. I didn't think he was great at the first couple of games, but in these recent ones, he's been solid. And then the maybe lower points to me have been Richaun Holmes and Davion, but I not like down on them or anything. I think that they could come around and get comfortable in this system, but they certainly don't look it yet.
Yeah. Look, it is early, and I'm not trying to throw these guys under a bus. I'm just trying to explain that, like, in my eyes, I see plenty of things that just aren't going well. And I think that there are reasons for those things without making excuses. I think that there are definitely reasons why Davion looks so much different with the first team than Fox does, outside of just flat out like talent levels, like just the on-off stuff. With Davion Mitchell on the court, the pace of the Kings is 97.6. With him off the court, it's 102.3. The offensive rating is 108.9. The offensive rating with him off the court is 115.4. Like, these are things where you're seeing like this step down versus where he's at, like when he's on the court versus when he's off the court. And I think it's pretty substantial. And he needs to figure some stuff out. You know, the opponents, when he's on the court, have a defensive rating, an offensive rating of 118, and when he's off the court, the Kings' defensive rating basically is what that is 113.4. So like they're plus 0.44 when he's on their defensive rating is plus 0.44 when he's off the court.
Yeah, but that's not telling the whole story.
No,
It just isn't. Not at all. I mean, I don't want people to hear that and go, oh, I mean, they're completely different players. Completely different players.
Oh no.
You got a dude who started off scoring 30 points a game. You have a guy who's not a scorer. You have a guy who's playing with different elements and aren't the best, and another guy who's playing with top-tier talent. So it's, I just want people to take that as an aside to consider that when you're looking at stats through 7 games.
No, totally. And I agree with that 100%. But I also know that, like, we're not going to see the switch. There's not going to be a point where Fox is playing with the second unit and he's playing with the first. And those are Davion's stats. That's not comparing
right.
him to Fox, although it kind of is, because one of them
it directly is in that consideration.
Minutes, yeah, and the other one's playing, the other 14 minutes. So yeah, I mean, and it's not to like harp on a kid that like I think he needs more time to figure it out. I think he's one of the guys you can circle and say, if there are one or two guys on this team that don't seem like they truly understand, like they're not comfortable with the concepts yet, it's him and Richaun Holmes. And I don't think that they're like not giving effort. I think they are. I think they're both giving effort. I just think that like there's a big drop off between what we're seeing with the first team and what we're seeing with the second team, and they need to make adjustments.
And I think there's an aspect of, when it comes to Richaun specifically, I think that you kind of have to suit your play style to him to optimize him in a way. And specifically just getting him to that push shot, like just playing in a pick and roll with him. And the only way that he's getting that like patented push shot is if he catches it in the right spot and is taking it right from there. He doesn't create it for himself in any sort of way. And I think we saw him hit his first push shot of the year last night against Miami, if I'm remembering that right.
I think that's his second.
Yeah,
because I remember him having one earlier.
Help me remind, were they both on second chance opportunities? Like he gathered a rebound. Because I felt like too, like there's no plays really being called for Richaun, like.
No.
And I don't really fault them necessarily, but yeah, expecting Richaun Holmes to play the similar role as Sabonis within the style of the offense is, I mean, I don't think that's the wisest, but you have to curtail your offense and what you're doing to suit Richaun Holmes, and I think you probably could try to free him up in the paint a little bit, or try to get him those touches, as you mentioned, Brenden. And it seems to me, just in my mind's eye, if I remember right, those 2 push shots that we've seen were like on second chance opportunities or a collected rebound or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong there, but that's what I picture.
I don't disagree with you. I don't think that they're utilizing Holmes well at all at this point, and that kind of takes some of the pressure off of him. But I also, like, when I say he's not coming up and on the defensive end, he's not coming up where the big is screening one of the Kings guards. He's not showing strong enough because that's something that they told us was an emphasis for them. He's playing in no man's land. He's not used to being that far out. And I'd say the same thing like on the offensive end when he's supposed to come way out and set a screen. He's not used to being 24 feet away from the rim because he's a guy who likes to set it closer to the 3-point line or maybe 2 steps in from the 3-point line, so then he can roll to the basket and be that finisher at the rim. Well, there is none of that play going for him. And that's where, like I said it early and I'll keep saying it, I would like to see some pick and roll. Like, I get this wide open offensive thing, but man, you have some incredible pick and roll pieces, including Sabonis. I think it's why Sabonis has struggled offensively, like to score a bunch of points. Not to, he hasn't scored that well. Offensively, I think he's been fine. Like, I mean, he's been the hub that we all thought that he would be. He's averaging, like close to 7 assists a game at this point. But I still would like to see more pick and roll. I would like to, even if it's for short stints, like, hey, let's switch it over and do pick and rolls for like 5 possessions and then go back to it. It seems like this same offense again and again and again. And I know they're trying to get to their progressions. They aren't there yet where they're doing all of the progressions out of their offensive scheme at this point. But still, like, if you've got pick and roll pieces, use the pick and roll pieces on occasion to come up with some easy buckets.
Definitely. And I think a lot of their offense has to do with, like, I think there's ways that they naturally go into a pick and roll in the flow of that offense, or like a DHO that kind of, a dribble handoff that kind of functions the same way. But it's a lot of asking guys to recognize that moment and then capitalize on it themselves. And I think that there's some guys that do that really well. I think we've seen Kevin Huerter do that really well. I think we've seen Malik Monk do that well as of late, the beginning of the year. He's kind of hit or miss game to game. I think his playmaking's been phenomenal. I've been shocked by that. But then I think that sometimes, like Davion Mitchell, for example, again, I don't mean to harp on him, but will maybe feel like it's his moment to take advantage of something when maybe that wouldn't be the most ideal play. So I think that there's like ways that they get into their same pick and roll, but I think it's about just feeling comfortable when guys want to call their own number and decide to kind of go that way within the flow of it. And I mean, Davion and Richaun are the two that stand out. And I will just back like your point of Richaun on defense. Like, I feel like was taking crazy pills and didn't know what I was watching 2 years ago when he was a really good defender, because now he's just like, I hate to be that guy. He's just horrible out there defensively. Like you're saying, he's not at the level of the screens. And a lot of this has to do with the center being the most important position when it comes to the defense. So that's why I'm harsh on him there, but he's just letting guys blow past him. I think that he's been really poor there. And then on the offensive end, to just echo your point, like the screening, I think just setting that screen. I know he's talked about like, he feels like the guards maybe move a little bit too quick, and maybe that's a reason why he gets some of these offensive fouls and things like that. And I think that that's part of it, but him also just staying grounded and setting that hard screen instead of slipping it and then hoping to get the ball from there, I think would be pretty big. I think it's just little things that these guys are going to get used to. And, I feel like we're spending a lot kind of criticizing the things that they could have done better or haven't done great at this point, but I still feel pretty good about the team. I think this is kind of as expected record-wise, 2-5. Like, coach is constantly talking about how they want to be trending up, and every once in a while they're going to trend down, but it's about bouncing back and responding from there. And I think that they're trending up if you're considering the starting point of what the end of last year was.
Yeah, and I guess, I mean, like, we are talking about a lot of negative things because a lot of negative things have happened when you're 2-5. But again, I don't think that there's been any lack of effort from this team. I think that every night they come out and look very prepared. I think it's just these moments where they just aren't grasping specific concepts that are exposing guys. Because when you're not getting there quick enough to set the screen, you're going to get off of offensive foul calls all the time. When you're not showing on the defensive end when your guard is being picked, and all of a sudden a guard is running downhill on you and you're getting blown by, that's because you didn't do the work early. If you do the work early, you don't have to worry about a guy breaking loose because you're already there defending him. And if he gets around you, again, that getting around you is going to take an extra half second and allow your defense to rotate and your other teammates pick you up. But when you're not showing and you're running out there late and the guy's already running by you, it's over. Like there is no rotation that can help you at that point. And I would like to say that the Kings' rotations are slow. They're only slow with like one or two players that are playing out there. Like so, it's like everything has to work. And when we hear like it's on a string, it's like when one guy goes one way, two guys shift another way. Like there's so many things that happen within the flow of a game that unless you really watch it, you won't see. And then if a guy does something he's not supposed to do, then it makes everyone else look bad. Like they're late, and it's because that one guy's not on the string. And so,
Well,
I'm not just trying to pick on
yeah.
Sean. I'm saying that there's a point where he needs to grasp the concepts and he needs to figure out what it is that he's not doing to stop what's happening.
Well, and the only thing I was going to point out too, I think what was different in this Miami game again is the zone that they faced, and Miami went really, really small. So I mean, I think there are adjustments that Miami made. I actually might be the contrarian again. I don't feel that the Kings are playing that terribly. Like I don't feel like there's a whole lot of negative to focus on. I think even last night's game, I thought this team was performed pretty well, all things considered. I think this was so far a very good road trip. You lost the game, but Miami didn't create a lot of distance with their leads. You weren't able to either as a Kings. You weren't able to create a lot of separation. There was so many lead changes, but yeah, I mean, I've actually been pretty impressed with what I've seen so far from a level of competitive nature. I know we can get really bogged down into the X's and O's and stats and different things, but overall, I think this has been a very uplifting, a lot to really hang your hat on from a performance standpoint. And I think if you go into Orlando, I don't like to look too far ahead, but if this is a 2-2 trip, and I think we said this just in the last podcast, like I think there's a lot to really take away from that. There will be a lot of positives there, and I think if you're Mike Brown, being a 500 team on the road is really what you try to aim to be, and you really have to take advantage of home cooking, which you haven't been able to do. So it's not the toughest trip that they're going to see, but it can be, and I think there's opportunities here on this trip. And you're already done with Miami, and you split the series. I think that's a really positive momentum to go into Orlando with.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Orlando game is going to be like sort of that game where, like, if they are able to win, that it'll calm a lot of people down and be like, okay, like you still got the Warriors ahead of you, so there's a chance you go 3-6. But if they lose that game, it's going to be a lot more panic again, because I think a lot of people just assume that because that's a young team that the Kings should be better than them, and there is no should be better, especially when it's on the road and you're facing a team that is probably the longest team that I've seen in like a really, really long time.
They're also very depleted, by the way. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are out. Like even tonight's game, they're playing Golden State tonight, and there's like Gary Harris is out. A lot of their guards, like Cole Anthony, I believe, is out. I mean,
he's out long term. He's got a torn muscle, internal abdominal muscle tear.
Yeah, I'll get the report in front of me. But yeah, there's a lot, especially at their guard play. They've got a lot of absences right now.
Yeah, but they're running Paolo at the 3.
Mm-hmm. Which is kind of scary.
They got,
and I also think,
Bol, who is playing outlandishly well.
Yeah, he's a star, man. That guy's going to be fun. I think so, man. I really do. Like Bol is incredible.
Yeah.
And I also think it helps that Bol plays with Banchero a lot because, I don't think Banchero's the most physical guy. Some might even call him soft. I kind of did, but he at the 3, I think he looks fantastic as a 3. He really does. Like I much prefer to see him there as compared to like a 4 or 5 or anything like that.
Yeah, and they have some shot blockers to defend behind him. Wendell Carter, they've got Mo Bamba, they've got Bol. it's kind of like the missing ingredient. The Kings, the Kings need one of those guys.
Yeah,
The Kings need the long shot blocker to play with Sabonis, and they just haven't been able to find him. That's like, if that's the one thing, I would call Orlando, see if they're, you kind of wish that Jonathan Isaac was healthy, which I don't think will ever happen in the history of Jonathan Isaac. But if he was healthy, then maybe it would free them up to move one of those guys, because they have like 4 or 5 guys that really fit the mold of what the Kings need. And it's almost like they're hoarding them. Like we hoard all of the 7'3" shot blocking, the 7'3" wingspan shot blocking 4 or 5 combo guys, and it's interesting. Them in Toronto, they've like hoarded them all,
and the Kings have yet to see one. I mean, I think that like going into the Orlando game, they should have a pretty good chance to come out on top of that one. I think there is like an okay amount of pressure on that game, just being one that they should win, and they haven't really had many games that they should win so far this year. Should.
Damn it, Brenden.
So
what he's doing.
But I don't feel bad about the Miami game. Like, I thought the offense was an issue. I mentioned not getting the paint. They only had 14 free throw attempts, and most of those came in the second half. They got out rebounded, but I think that really, like, their offense just didn't look very good on a night when they're playing one of the best defenses in the league that's going to switch everything and totally throw off your schemes and throw zones at you. And you didn't have your best offensive player. Like, I think that was a totally fine, and I still think there's reasons to feel good about what happened in so far up to this Kings season. And I think that this is the first time that I've seen the offense maybe be a shortcoming for this team, unless a moment is slipping my mind. Even that Golden State game where their defense was terrible, they kind of were keeping up close enough.
I think
thought
the
their
Memphis
offense was
game
pretty impressive.
The Memphis game, they weren't good offensively.
That's right. Yeah, they've had games with a lot of turnovers, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I think that overall, like, we're starting to see some strengths and weaknesses develop to this team.
Okay. Sean.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was on Miami for this one. I just really do. The way they defended, I thought was really, really incredible. I mean, the Kings still shot 47.7%, and didn't turn the ball over. Like, they just weren't getting enough shots, really, So
yeah,
it's just an adjustment, and I think that was the game where they had to. If you're having a practice today, you're kind of tinkering with some things.
Yeah, I'll point out this too. Sean, you made the statement on the last on Tuesday.
A proclamation?
Well, it's not like we're ever going to see Dellavedova play like 15 minutes in a game, and then he goes for 20 minutes.
There he is. Did I say it like that?
Yeah, actually, I think you said, I don't think he'll ever play more than like 12 minutes ever, but right. It was something like that.
Keep proving me wrong, Delly.
I like what I see from him. I mean, it's not always perfect, and he made some like he fouled a lot, but he was physical. I thought he was in the official's ear a couple of times. He's not taking it when they're getting these foul calls. There were some strange things that happened with him where like somebody grabbed him and he got a foul call. But I think we now see again why they kept Dellavedova around is, break in case of emergency, but also just you see him coaching the whole time and in guys' ears and like pulling guys together. And there's even a moment late in the game where Dellavedova and Mitchell were both in the game. I thought that was like strange to see. There were moments where guys tried to run over Dellavedova and he just was like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
That would have been me if I was Eric Spoelstra and be like, take that dude out. Like, go right at him. He's probably not going to play much longer if you do. Yeah, it surprised me. I started off the podcast by saying, my goodness, he played 20 minutes. Like, that was, I don't know if we'll see that again. I just
keep saying that, and
it's question mark.
He's going to play 30 against Orlando.
Will we see that again? And will that be a good thing? I did bring up, by the way, the injury report. How about this? This is for Golden State tonight, and it was Cole Anthony. We already talked about Markelle Fultz out, fractured toe. Gary Harris with a left knee. We already know about that. Jonathan Isaac is perpetually always on the injury list.
Well,
Terrence Ross questionable.
Too. Yeah.
Yeah, the knee contusion, so we don't know what Terrence Ross might be. But Mo Wagner with a foot sprain. So yeah, they've got a lot of casualties right there, and maybe that sometimes that doesn't bode well for the Kings. And this is probably one of the reasons why you're seeing some of those bigs really get so many minutes together with Orlando. But they've been sneakily one of the fun league pass teams to watch.
We do have breaking news as we're sitting
Yeah, we
here.
do.
The Hornets restricted free agent Miles Bridges pleaded no contest to the felony domestic violence charges Thursday in Los Angeles Superior Court and will face 3 years of probation and no jail time as part of a deal with prosecutors.
Cite your source, buddy. That's Baxter Holmes on it.
Excuse me. Yes, that is Baxter
Yes, how
Holmes
dare you.
through Adrian Wojnarowski. Yeah, like Woj retweeted Baxter.
So he will be or he will be. See if interesting if the NBA does anything. Probably not, but he can now go
To Brooklyn.
negotiate a deal. Yeah, how about that?
Yeah. Well, he's still a restricted free agent.
Right.
They haven't pulled his qualifying offer. What a strange situation that's going to be. I don't know that he plays again in the NBA, but then again, I also didn't think that Emi Udoka would coach again in the NBA, and all of a sudden, like bygones, they just kind of move right past the whole situation with him in Boston. Yeah, so it does kind of it pushes us to a different topic here. What do you guys think happens? And I'll reiterate, I've said this before on the podcast, but we face a similar thing with Darren Collison. I don't know, what was that 2015? And in the state of California, Miles Bridges had no choice but to plead guilty. Oh, well, to plead no contest. Bless you. Yeah, he had. He's on.
I
Mute,
tried to find the mute button and then I muted myself.
Yeah. But in the state of California, if there are domestic claims against you and a police report is filed, if the domestic partner decides Brenden has left us, if the domestic partner has decided to not go to trial and testify against you, they will read the original police report in as their witness statement, and you have no way around it. And so that's what Darren Collison faced. It's the same thing that he was going to face here. And even if his estranged, partner, I don't know if his wife or not, even if she decided not to press charges, it didn't matter. The bell was already rung. There was no way for him to walk away from that without at least something. So that's what we're seeing. The no contest is just him saying, well, there's no way I'm going to be able to fight this and get away from it. And it's the same thing, I believe, that I think Collison pleaded guilty, but no contest guilty is the same basic concept.
I also think too, just with Bridges, I don't know that we're gonna see him play. I would question that. I maybe use a break in the schedule to try and bring him back in. Who knows? But yeah, this could be a weird year for Charlotte and him. I mean, they did extend them the qualifying offer, so there's, like you mentioned, James, they're going to be able to match anything he gets, but could be a weird year.
You think anyone actually gives him an offer?
Hard to say.
Brenden threw it out there. Why not Brooklyn? You've done everything else that's odd and strange, and we went through the.
I don't think they have the money, man.
Oh, well, how much?
Then there's that.
How much is Miles Bridges going to get?
Yeah.
His $160 million summer is over. His $160 million career is over. He's not getting that money back. At least typically.
Do you guys feel like throughout the course of your time covering the league, it's hard to say anything specifically comparable to this? There's always going to be differences, but I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong with this, that more often than not, guys end up coming back. No, even if I don't think they should. And this situation's disgusting. I hate this whole Bridges situation, but I feel like more often than not, people come back. Am I wrong for that?
Huh?
Are you saying that they come back as a result of what do you mean? Just are you talking about the legal matter or his restricted free agency? What do you mean?
Yeah, I feel like they end up playing in the NBA again.
Yeah, no, you'll I think we'll see him play this year. I really do. But I just think it's going to be a very weird situation. Like he's still. It's restricted free agency. You've got the qualifying offer. Maybe, I don't know. I think his people have a decision to make, and maybe it's going to be the one that's just the easiest to get through the year.
I don't think he has people anymore. I think they dropped him.
Yeah.
Like he might have new people, but
Right.
I think last time I heard he did, I believe he was dropped. I might be wrong with that, though.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think that he's out there by himself, trying to. I think he's going to have a trainer. He's still going to have people that are close to him, and even without having the agency he once did, we'll see how that plays out in the coming days.
Okay, well, let's just roll this right into the business of basketball. Like the NBA is facing like a bunch of really, really hot button issues. Like this is one. We talked a little bit about just like without like mincing words here, the shit show that is the Brooklyn Nets and what's happened to them in the last year. But at what point do we see the league have to like step in and handle some of these issues as a league, as a business, as somebody who can't have one of their star players and the vice president of the Players Association going out and spreading anti-Semitic propaganda? Like, what do you think is going to happen here? Because we have this situation where it looks like Adam Silver is going to meet with Kyrie Irving in the coming days, and rightly he should. Like his business is being damaged by one person in a way that it just stands out. Like it's not good. But where is the league, and how does the league handle situations like this? And how should they handle situations like this?
Well, they've bungled it so far, and now it looks like a whole bunch of reaction to the criticism that they're justly getting. It's terrible out there. It's a disgrace. And Adam Silver meeting with Kyrie Irving is a step, but it's also, Kyrie Irving, if you read his words and hear him speak, he doesn't think he did anything wrong. And he's not apologizing. He also is trying to show that he doesn't line up with he's not apologizing because he doesn't feel he did anything wrong by virtue of him not believing he's anti-Semitic and saying that just because I promoted this video or showed this video or whatever it was, that this means that he's anti-Semitic. But then when he's asked about if he's anti-Semitic, he dodges the question and then doesn't apologize. So like it's awful, and the league should have done more. And no, he should not be playing probably. And there are ramifications for your words. Yes, this is an area where you can go out and have free speech for sure, no doubt. But guess what? There's ramifications to free speech. There are consequences that come with free speech. So you saw that with Kanye West. He's his own business, and he's lost every business that he had. And those are the ramifications for it. So we talked about in the previous podcast what happened to Myers Leonard. Myers Leonard's not a star player, but the Miami Heat banished him. He was suspended, and he's never played again. So to contrast that with what's going on with Kyrie Irving, it's not. The league, to me, I think, was leaning on the Nets, and then the Nets thought, even though their owner admonished what he said, they'd come out there and throw money at it with Kyrie Irving that's just awful. It's just lands completely flat in terms of how you respond to this. Just if he had just come out and said that, hey, I apologize, didn't mean anything by it, and kind of articulated himself in an eloquent way, and I think we wouldn't be really talking about this anymore. But they continue to step on every landmine in Brooklyn, and now you've got the commissioner getting involved, and it just looks completely reactionary. Like you're doing it because of the criticism that you're getting. I don't like it.
Yeah, I think one of the problems, and I'll kick this to Brenden. Sean, you bring up something there, though. It's that like what he's saying is something that like he does believe. And you said, if he would have come out and said something eloquent, like the problem is we know that he can. It's not like he is the vice president of the Players Association. He can speak for himself. And the problem that we're having is that he goes further and further and further down some rabbit hole where he's almost trying to be reactionary. And to be honest, I'm waiting. Where's Nike in this? Because he's a Nike guy, right? Like, where is the shoe
Not only is he
giant?
a Nike guy, James. Not only is he a Nike guy, he has his own signature shoe, which is even different. Like you have guys that get shoes, right? But you have guys that get their signature shoe. The Kobe, the Paul George, Zion Williamson. You have a Jordan brand shoe. Kyrie has a very popular shoe. A lot of NBA players wear it. It's not a De'Aaron Fox where you don't really have your own signature shoe. You may have a colorway and a model like you saw at one point, but you don't have a evolving shoe like LeBron every single year. He does, and it's a small list of guys that have that.
Yeah, but I mean, we saw what Adidas did to
Right.
to Kanye. Like, when does Nike step up and actually violate his contract and say we're done with you? Like, again, we're in this weird situation where some things are unacceptable and other things, well, they're pretty much unacceptable. And I think it plays into the Miles Bridges conversation as well. It's like, look, that are you going to back it? Are you going to let him play again? Are you going to allow somebody into your league that did what he did? And I think it's like we're getting to a point where there needs to be consequences, and it becomes, is the league strong enough? Can they do something to stop some of the things that are happening? And it feels like every day we're hit with a new thing, with like the Josh Primo thing, or the Bridges situation, or the Kyrie Irving thing. Like, where is the league? Because as of right now, it does not feel like they've been strong enough on any front. Sorry, Brendan, I'll throw it to you with James just like,
No, you're fine. This is always my least favorite conversations to have, but I mean, it's just Kyrie's public responses to all this have been shocking. Like, why can't he just say that he is anti-Semitic and that he only agreed with a certain portion of what he had posted? And like, I just, he's continuously doubling down, tripling down, and just making it so much worse. And it's just a horrible look to the, like, when does Nike step in, and like Kanye and Adidas had their falling out. Like, it took a long time for that to happen. I feel like maybe it happened fairly quick within the time period of like everything just kind of fell through for Kanye at the same time, but he had been saying a lot of stuff for a while now, and then it kind of finally fell through. So it'll be interesting to see what the league ends up deciding with Kyrie and what his response is to whatever decision is made. And then Brooklyn goes out and hires Ime Udoka as well, and we still don't even know the full extent of what the hell went on with Udoka in Boston. And that whole complication, like you're saying, Primo, Bridges, there was the Detroit thing not long ago. We dealt with Sarver at the beginning of this year. Like, it's been a mess. And
that is a mess. I
it's
forgot
a
about the
total mess.
servers. Look how far we are. That was just like a month ago that we were dealing with the fallout from the server situation. The news is coming so fast that it feels like the political cycle. That's what it feels like, where you just don't have time to digest every single bit of information, and because there's something new that's coming the next day that will just make you forget about the ridiculous things that happened the day before.
Just to kind of put a bow on the Kyrie stuff here, though, because I think there's a lot that's coming at you, especially today as we record this podcast. And for people who may not have been caught up on this, yeah, when you mentioned Adam Silver is going to meet with Kyrie at some point this week, as Silver announced that in a statement this morning. But Kyrie also spoke to the media, and our good friend Nick Friedel, who's been on the story with ESPN, Kyrie with a quote here, "I didn't mean to cause any harm. I'm not the one who made the documentary." That's part of the double down where you're not having the apology. He goes on to say, "I take my responsibility for posting that. Some things that were questionable in there, untrue. Like I said in the first time you guys asked me when I was sitting on that stage, I don't believe everything that everybody posts. It's a documentary, so I take my responsibility." And Nick does a great job of putting context here, where he says, "Many around the league and within the Nets organization were hoping that Kyrie would say at least these two things today. One, I'm sorry. And two, I don't have anti-Semitic beliefs," which he was asked about several times. And neither one of those happened again today, even after the news is out that he's going to meet that the commissioner wants to meet with him. So it's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
I mean, you've got we're in 2022, and you've got sports reporters gathered up around a media scrum at Kyrie Irving saying, "Are you anti-Semitic?" And he cannot answer the question.
How can you not answer the question? Like, it says a lot.
A simple no would do.
Right.
Yeah, geez,
well, he
man.
can't answer the question because he doesn't believe the answer that everyone wants.
That's what it seems like, right?
I mean, that's pretty basic. Like, I mean, it plays into a larger like issue that we're having in society right now, where, like the truth is being assaulted left and right, and it's pretty crazy. And I'm not even sure to make of the Kyrie situation. I'm to the
Not
point
good.
where the thing is, we're on a ticking clock with him. I don't know that he'll be in the league next year. I don't know that someone else is going to put up with this trash again and again and again. And it's funny when he's doing the flat earth thing, and, even if he does believe it, you're just sitting there shaking your head like, all right, what exactly, it is. That's not that big of a deal because you're like, okay, you're just like, you don't get science, I guess. I'm not sure. But when you're going down this rabbit hole with him, and it just becomes more and more and more and more. And to be honest with you, I think the biggest issue that we want to compare him to Kanye with some of these things that he's doing. The problem is that we all know that like Kanye has mental health issues. And I don't think that we've ever thought that was the case with Kyrie. Like, there's something very specific that like Kanye has mental health issues. There's been moments where, like guys have gone to help and try to save him, and like he has mental health issues. But that's not what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with someone who has bad views, and like he's standing by him. And it's like, okay, it's one thing if we can at least think, okay, you're schizophrenic or bipolar, or there's something else brewing here that, that makes it not right, but at least explains some of the reason why you're going down this path and refusing to yield. But that's not the case with him. It really does feel like somebody who's defiantly putting things out there that, make a lot of people uncomfortable, and are a lot of things that aren't true, and a lot of things that you just shouldn't be putting out there.
Can I bring it back to a Kings thing real quick?
Yeah.
Then you've got Ben Simmons, who's got no, it's completely, obviously that's a terrible tangent. Like that segue, I didn't. What I'm talking about is
let's reset, and
resetting.
We're
Welcome
done
to
with
the Kings beat.
We're done with the other conversation. We're done with the Kyrie situation.
No,
Okay.
but like then you have Ben Simmons who has swelling in the knee, and the report about them talking to a Western Conference team. Sure, I don't think it would surprise many if one of them was the Kings, but like. Let's pretend it was the Kings without knowing for sure, and purely speculation here.
Okay.
But
we did this on D-Lo and KZ yesterday, but go ahead.
Oh, did you? Okay.
No, on Monday,
sorry.
but go ahead. Yeah, no, it's fine. Yeah.
Is there still interest if you're the Sacramento Kings? Should you still have interest in Ben Simmons? How much does the knee bother you? If you do. Brenden, let's start with you since I just saw you lean way back in your chair.
Well, I was a Ben Simmons believer, and he's really testing me this year. He's been really bad, and then there's, of course, always lingering injury stuff. And what you're pointing out there, spacing is one of Mike Brown's staples to the offense, and clearly not something that Ben Simmons helps you with at all, even though he has a lot of other things that he does really well. But I don't think that he's been very good on defense. I think that this has been a good little test, and of course he's still getting back into the groove of playing basketball and everything, but I think that this has been a decent little test of, can he save a defense? Because Brooklyn defense was horrible last year, and sure, they brought Royce O'Neal in as well. Like, I think Nick Claxton's okay on defense, and some of those other guys, but it doesn't look like he's somebody that's going to come in and save a defense or anything like that. And I think that would be the ideal hope with Simmons. If it's the right price, I'm still listening, from Sacramento's point of view, but I'm certainly not as interested as I was throughout the offseason, which really just means that probably my evaluation before was not the best.
I think the asking price has likely come down. I think it would be, if it's still the same, well, then you hang up the phone. Like if it's still as egregious as you're expecting, James Harden like talent in return that you got. To me, he's damaged goods at this point. There's just too many things to go wrong, and now you've got a swelling in the knee. There's just way too many bad signs, and I'm always a guy who'll bet on talent. I really am. I was all in on Ben Simmons last year. That was a move. I said, I don't care. Make it. The Kings were a rudderless ship going nowhere, especially that summer going into the season. And I famously said the year before, you can have any three of my players. If I'm not touching my picks, you can have any three of my players, and I'll take them. I'll take Ben Simmons in return, and I'll figure it out. I don't regret that at all. I think at that point you would have gotten a different Ben Simmons than you do right now. And what I mean by that is you wouldn't have had the whole let's just sit with the Philadelphia 76ers coming off of the playoff series that you had and let his confidence completely deteriorate and become something of this. If you had been able to get him out of Philadelphia early after that playoff series and had a whole summer to build him up in the right situation, which I think the Kings could have been, I think you're seeing a different. I think we're talking about a much, much, much different Ben Simmons than we would be at that point. But the one we have right now, there's just too much negative there. To be honest, short of moving an expiring contract like Harrison Barnes or somebody that's just fell out of a rotation like Richaun Holmes or I honestly probably wouldn't do any first round pick. I probably wouldn't include Davion Mitchell in any situation. There's not really much I'd give up for him at this point.
Okay, so I'm just going to put it to both of you. Would you do that deal right there? If it was Holmes and Barnes, which means you save on the next 2 years of Holmes' salary, which is about $26 million, I think, and you lose Holmes and Barnes for Ben Simmons straight up, no picks, would you do it?
Yeah, and I would, and I'd even do something like somebody who doesn't really find themselves in the rotation, not find themselves, but not like a steady rotational player, like someone like Alex Len, someone like I could be talked into Trey Lyles. Yeah, well, yeah, probably, I guess, because he, I do still see value with Chimezie Metu, but
breaking the deal.
It isn't. It's not a deal breaker. But yeah, that type of move for sure. But I'm not. I saw someone have speculate a top 15 protected. No, I'm not doing that. No, you can't. I wouldn't be doing any.
Well, and top 15 protected costs the Kings every pick that for the next 7 years. They
in a way, unless you
a top 20.
Unless you just satisfy the Herter thing. So if you satisfy the Herter thing, that you have to factor that in. So if you satisfy the Herter deal with Atlanta and say, okay, we're removing the protections, and you design a way to where that pick goes away in 2020. Again, that's part of the calculus, and I'm not doing that.
No. I'm with you. Brenden, what would you say yes or no?
The question was Barnes and Holmes straight up.
Barnes, Holmes, straight up, and maybe, a toss in.
Yeah.
Nothing outlandish.
I'm easily doing that. I'm skeptical of Ben Simmons for same reason Sean laid out and you have James and we've kind of talked about here, but he's still 26. He's got this year and 2 more on his deal, which I guess in some ways could be looked at as a downside because it's a pretty big deal. 37 the year after, $40 million in 2024-25.
113, I think it is. 113 million over this year and the next 2.
It is a lot of money. It's also a lot of talent. I don't know how the Kings get another talent this level, to be honest. And I guess this level has some variance to it depending on what sort of Ben Simmons we're talking about. But I think that we've seen him be a really, really good basketball player, one of the most impactful defenders in the league, one of the best passers in the league. He's great at rebounding, which has been a big thing for the Kings. I think it's really easy to get caught up in what he can't do and overlook all the things that he does at genuinely an elite level, even though we haven't seen that so far in Brooklyn. If we're just talking Holmes, whose value is worrying me more and more with each passing day, and Harrison Barnes, who
famously
is expiring. then yeah, that's an easy yes for me, even though I'm skeptical
Right.
of Simmons.
I too would say yes, which is no surprise because
Yeah, but it's not going to be that. Like, if you're Brooklyn, why are you doing that move?
because you have 130 something million on the books with him, and because he's not playing well enough to support what you're doing this year for KD. And Harrison Barnes might, especially offensively, might actually work better for you. I mean, the guy is averaging like 5.7 shot attempts per game. Although he's still over 7 assists, he's still 6.5 rebounds.
He's an elite playmaker, elite rebounder, elite defender. I mean, he's elite ball handler. He's elite in several categories.
Yeah, and I'll say this too. Like, I want to know.
That's what I'm saying. Why would you do it?
If you're them,
Yeah, you to me in my mind,
because you have to reset, because that thing's a mess. You have
do
to
you?
reset
It is. No, it is.
No,
but
you
you still
do.
have Kevin Durant. Yeah, but I don't feel like.
You shopped.
I don't feel like you
Durant
have
during
to
the
do it.
offseason. Like, you were forced to shop Durant. You almost made a deal with the Suns.
You're probably going to have to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's where they're at. So why not?
Did that sound cool, by the way? I don't even know if that sounded cool.
I don't
You're probably
know.
going to have to do that again. I was trying to do your voice, but I couldn't do that.
Yeah. That's okay. I felt you. I understood what you're doing. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, to me, I'll say this. We keep seeing the problem with the Sacramento Kings is when Sabonis and Fox are off the floor, they have a problem running the offense. If you added another guy who averages 7.3 assists per game, and when one of those guys stepped off the floor, Simmons is now that same hub that you're using that Sabonis is, then I think your offense just keeps flowing and you could be really good. Whether he
It's just
decides to like become an offensive weapon, decides to cut, decides to play off the ball, those are things that I'm slightly concerned with. Can he play off the ball? And I'm not sure that he can. But if you get him in transition, you get everything moving, I see a lot of pluses.
You mentioned something just a few minutes ago about Kyrie Irving, about possibility of that guy not being in the league at some point. I mean, he's still, got a pretty nice contract, but
No, it expires. He's
no, I'm
expiring.
saying the contract this year. I'm talking about he's going to be up for free agency. Who knows what happens there? I think again, that's going to be part of the reset. Given what's going on with Kyrie Irving right now, like that's obviously your biggest problem. I feel like you can still, again, we were talking about all these things, why the Kings would be interested in Ben Simmons. I could still see why the Nets would be interested in Ben Simmons, especially considering you just moved James Harden for him. You don't feel, if the best you can get, in your opinion, and I don't know that it's the best you can get, but hypothetically speaking with the Kings, and we're talking about Richaun Holmes and Harrison Barnes, that's not good enough. That's not good enough.
Well, but you have to remember what the trade was for him going from Philly.
Right.
Like, they got first round picks with him, with Ben Simmons.
With Ben Simmons, yeah.
Yeah, so the deal they traded from Philadelphia with Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, a 2022 first round pick, and a 2027 first round pick. So yeah, I mean, they actually got.
It's still
some
not
stuff
good
there.
enough. It's not. I mean, if you have that type of talent, and again, it's diminished. I'll give you that. Like, I feel like it has come down off of that because there's too many question marks that surround Ben Simmons. And again, I'm not the guy who's wanting to give up first round picks or anything of substance for Ben Simmons at this point. But if you're Brooklyn and you know that you're going to be likely losing Kyrie Irving and probably not having, that's a big cog that comes off of your wheel, and you don't have that money will be coming off of your books as well. Like, I feel like adding somebody like Richaun Holmes and Harrison Barnes, granted Harrison's an expiring deal as well. I don't know. I just feel like you got to do better than that.
I think
and
you
I feel
go
like
into. Go ahead.
I feel like picking a new coach is maybe I'm reading this wrong, is more of a sign of we have the talent, we're just not utilizing it right, and maybe this guy can do it. And they are a really talented roster for what it's worth. So I don't know. Maybe he looks different under Udoka.
30th in the league in defense.
Do we know what the contractual terms will be with Udoka?
Oh, that's nuts. Well, I mean, Boston just got off the hook. They just fully got off the hook for all that money they owed him.
Yeah.
Because you figure he probably had this year and two more at a minimum. And I'll say this too. Like the one reason why I think Brooklyn would at least listen is because they would basically have, with Kyrie and with Simmons gone and with Barnes being a free agent, they'd have roughly $70 million this offseason to go add pieces around KD. That's a lot. They don't have a bunch of contracts, a bunch of contractual obligations outside of those two. They've got little things here. I think Joe Harris is probably a little bit of money, but even him, I don't think he's under contract for very much longer. And so I don't know. I mean, it's possible that they do something crazy that that they would at least listen. And I think the Kings, while they don't have first round picks, you can throw in a stack of seconds. You can do something different to help them because that's a team that actually uses second round picks because they usually have really high end players all around them. Yeah, right. Joe Harris is under contract for one more year. After this year. So interesting, food for thought. I did not expect us to take the podcast to Kyrie to a potential Ben Simmons. I had notes.
Should we go back to screwing the refs? The refs are screwing Sacramento.
The refs hate the Kings. Keegan Murray had his worst offensive game of the season and probably worst defensive game.
Worst defensive game. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so. I'm not worried about the shoot. I'm not worried about the
No, I'm not worried about that. I don't worry about any of it with him.
No.
And did you see his dad responded? I think that was bold. What was it to Cam Salerno?
Yeah, to Cameron Salerno, yeah.
Yeah, so he responded that, like, look, but Keegan wasn't shooting the ball well and he wasn't playing defense, so he probably didn't need to be on the court. I thought that was bold.
And night and day with a different lottery picks family members.
Yeah, a little bit different. We had Sabonis put up 22, 12, and 8. That was incredible. And man, I think the one thing I'll point out with the Ben Simmons question is that the addition of Kevin Huerter and Keegan Murray make it possible for you to go chase a guy like Ben Simmons. Because those dudes,
I agree. I get it.
Hoisting the three ball, they have been really, really good, especially Huerter. Huerter has been absolutely spectacular. He's everything the Kings thought they were getting and quite a bit more. Impressed.
Every time Huerter or Murray hoist up a three, I'm just convinced it's going in.
Yeah.
That's the confidence I have in both those players from beyond the arc right now.
I mean, Huerter hit a couple from the Florida Keys.
Yeah.
I mean, he was launching from deep, and he doesn't even care. That's what I love. He's just like, all right, this is what I'm doing. I'm hoisting, and none of it feels like it's out of the flow.
The one here in Sacramento where you just pulled up from. It was a 2-for-1 situation. He recognized it. He's like, all right, I'm going to pull from here and. Money. I mean, it was damn near 30 feet away, and he drained it.
Yeah. All right. Let's get to final thoughts. Brenden, you got any final thoughts? I assume that are car related. Final thoughts, as in the police report you're about to file.
I'm gonna have enough car related thoughts after this episode, so I'm gonna save those for post recording. I think one thing that I want to highlight that we've talked about before, but it's just kind of kept up and surprised me and briefly mentioned earlier this episode is just Malik Monk's passing has been so freaking good. I mean, 7 assists in this game. I don't think it's the first game he's had 7 assists. He's been up there in most of these previous games. It's the third with 7 assists, which is crazy. I asked Bam post game what he thought about Malik with 7 assists and kind of the growth he's seen from him. And he just jokingly talked about this. The first time I've ever seen Malik have 7 assists. The growth is just that he's actually passing the ball now, which is pretty funny. But he's been a phenomenal passer. I think Huerter's been a good passer too. I think that you could lessen those deli minutes a little bit and even have Monk as your primary initiator. Even minutes where Davion was out there alongside Monk. Monk was the one bringing the ball up the floor and kind of initiating the offense just to kind of initially get into their flow. But just final thought, just want to talk about how impressed I've been with Malik as a passer and kind of the variety of passes he's been able to throw and hasn't been all too much turnover prone. I heard coming into the year that he was an improved passer, but I've been shocked at the extent of it.
It's the most underrated part of his game. People don't give him nearly as much credit for that.
You've said that about Herter as well.
Yeah. Herter's a nice. I mean, to me, I feel like it's defensively where Herter doesn't get the credit because Herter is a fantastic defender, especially in a team concept, in my opinion. And I think everyone just looks at Herter and goes, "Oh, he's a shooter," and he is, and we're raving about it. But he does a lot of other things too, man. And both those guys, I think when people saw that Malik Monk was coming to Sacramento, I think there was a lot of people that thought, even with the addition of Herter, that Malik would be the starter. And he was coming off a career year in LA and all this thing. And I was like, no, man, you want that? This guy's coming off the bench. Herter's that dude. Herter needs more shot attempts, more minutes played, and Malik is very capable, but he'll be that spark off the bench. But yes, he can score and yes, he can shoot. But my goodness, the playmaking ability is fantastic.
I remember when Sean tried to reach through the call here and slap me when I said that Herter's like a poor man's Klay Thompson.
I did, yeah.
He's looking more and more like a pretty solid, not even broke Klay Thompson. Like
he's not Klay Thompson, bro. There's
he's
nowhere
not Klay
near
Thompson?
Klay Thompson. No,
he's not
even
Thompson.
in the. He's not even in the world of Klay Thompson. He can't.
He's
He is not an elite defender. He can't shoot.
just-
Sorry, I'm
you
sorry.
just
It's
said how
triggering.
good he
It's
was.
triggering. Yeah, no, I did. I said how good he was as a playmaker and as a scorer. He can't shoot and he can't defend like Klay Thompson.
You said just 2 seconds ago that he's a much better defender, that he hasn't been getting the
Kevin
props in
Herter.
the defense.
Kevin Herter.
That's-
Yeah. He's a
That's what
much
I'm
better
saying.
defender. Oh, they said Malik Monk. No, even with Herter, he's not Klay Thompson.
No, I
no.
never ever said Malik Monk was
No.
Klay Thompson. No, I'm saying
No.
Kevin Herter
No,
is
Kevin.
like
He's not. No, he's not. Even Herter's not in the realm of discussion of Klay Thompson. He's his own player.
He's not as good a defender, but a lot of similarities. The shooting ability, is Klay a better, like, over the course of his career, a much better shooter? Yeah, but like if you get him in the right offense and under the right situation, he's a style of player, a 6'7" shooting guard that can defend people, that can make some passes for people, and who can knock down shots from everywhere. So, and I'm not saying he's Klay.
That's a very poor man.
I don't think it's, well,
He's his own guy. I just don't think they compare well. But tomato.
I don't know.
Who says tomato? By the way, if anyone came up to me and said tomato, I'd look at
Nobody.
him and go, "What country are you from?
Yeah,
What land do you hail from?"
I wonder when that was a thing. Sean, do you have any final thoughts? Since we got on another topic here as opposed
I like
to
that
finishing
topic.
final thoughts.
No, I can't think of anything great. Are you guys going down to the Warriors on Monday?
I think
Yeah?
we are. I think we're doing carpool karaoke again.
Carpool karaoke.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm actually a
put some
little.
Rihanna in the car.
What was
Oh,
that?
that's already queued up. That's
We
already
could play
queued
some
up.
Rihanna in the car. I said.
Yeah, you can jump
No.
in with us if you want, Sean.
New song's fantastic. Did we talk about that? I don't think we talked about it enough.
I will say my favorite part of last home game was late fourth quarter. Sean panicking to figure
Not
out how
panicking.
he could play. No, you were panicking.
I kept
you realized
refreshing.
You couldn't find it on Spotify. That YouTube wasn't working.
No,
You
I didn't
definitely
have
looked
my.
like you were panicking.
So here's the thing, and I'm so glad you brought this up. I don't have my spot. I don't subscribe to Spotify because most everything you can do on there is free, except for like look up a specific song. And I don't know how to log into it. And with the new iPhones, you can't like plug in your headphones, which I didn't have. And Matt George let me borrow something where I could hear, and I didn't have the adapter with me. It was downstairs, and I didn't want to leave because I'm obviously having to do my job as well. So I was like, all right, what are the many ways that I can listen to this? And did you guys get on video or anything? Like, were you guys just making fun of me behind my back? I didn't see this.
Yeah, we were right behind you. I didn't want to bother you because you were just so
I was locked
into
in,
your
bud.
search.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listened to it like 3 or 4 times. It was, I had to get into my Apple Music, which I didn't want to, you're limited on how many devices you can have it on. I was like, fuck it. We're going to get onto my Apple Music and we're going to just go. It's fine. My final thoughts, by the way, was I was debating not going to the Kings Warriors game because Quentin Tarantino is doing a speaking engagement for his new book in San Francisco, and I was going to try to go to that, but then I realized
that?
I had to work. So I was thinking, sorry, what?
Yeah, Spencer.
Okay, I knew you were just dicking around. Okay, no, I'm actually really giving it thought as to like how do I not go, because I obviously can't do both, but because they're right at the same time. But I think it would be fun to see that. And Brenden, how many Tarantino movies have you seen? Top of your head.
I've seen Pulp Fiction. Can you help me name any other ones?
Sure. How about Jackie Brown?
No.
Well, that's
Reservoir Dogs?
No.
That's a great one.
Either of the Kill Bills?
Those
Not
can be a
really.
little tough, but yeah, I've seen them.
What do you? How dare
Hateful
you?
Eight.
Turn your mic off, James.
4 Rooms.
Django Unchained.
Not Four Rooms. I've seen some of Django.
Inglorious Bat. What do you mean some of Django?
Oh, Inglorious Bastards.
You know how I am
Great
with
movie.
movies. I've seen Inglorious Bastards.
All the way through?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
that's a great film. What
Well,
else? Is that it? Have we run out of Tarantino films?
Well, Reservoir Dogs.
He said that.
You know, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Which
No.
is, he look at him shaking his head. God, come on, man.
Okay, I liked it. I didn't love. I mean, it like took some turns there. Yeah, that was they took some liberties there. So, like, because
Okay.
it's based loosely on a true event, which I thought was intriguing how they took that the way.
So
they
was Inglorious Bastards, man.
did. Yeah.
You think
but
they didn't take some liberties there, my guy?
That's different. Like that.
Oh,
that
okay.
felt different. All right. Final thoughts from James. Yeah, never too high,
Don't-
never too low. Yeah, I think that we've seen Kings fans like cardiac, like arrest every like enjoy the games. Try to take a step back and really like watch the team grow, because I think they are growing. I think we haven't seen steps backwards as much as we have seen tough competition and games where you don't do like everything perfect. But overall, I think the progress we're seeing is pretty strong, and the advanced numbers like support like growth that is happening. And I think you're still like seeing the tip of the iceberg on specific players. And I haven't given up on Richaun Holmes, and I haven't given up on Davion Mitchell being like really solid contributors to the team. But
No?
that doesn't mean that I won't like say what I believe is, what if they're not playing well. Like, it is what it is. Like, that's part of the job, is
It is.
to call it out and say what you see. And like, I don't think I'm off base with a lot of what I'm saying. So anyway,
Brenden, if someone's in the to sell their car, like they're in the market of selling their car and want to make you aware of it, where could they send their vehicle? No,
I guess
notice.
I guess it's Twitter DMs. God damn, this is what my day has come to already.
it's
Jeez.
coming to this, Brendan.
Yeah.
Okay, you might have a rental car for a couple of weeks. Maybe we take your rental car on Monday. I don't know. Like, get a van, get a minivan. I don't know.
Get a van.
Maybe, but you know what Brendan should do? He just buy a Tesla, like everyone else is buying a Tesla.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
Tessie, that Tessie life.
He's got that Tesla money.
Apartments are hard to charge, though. You get to go
You don't
one of
need
those
to.
ones
You
that have a
just go
charging
down
station.
to Golden One and
Go to Doco. Yeah,
just plug it in all day at work.
go see
Not
a
like
movie.
he goes anywhere. Yeah.
Fall asleep.
There we go. Fall asleep in the movies. Hope you don't get robbed in the movies.
Oh,
Wake up
come
with-
on.
Well, I mean, like, if you're bringing stuff in, like, who knows?
You literally went and watched Black Adam and slept through it. the
I
other
did.
day.
I fell asleep and missed the first part of it. Yeah, that's very true. Okay, well, that's gonna wrap up this edition of the Kings Beat podcast. If you're still watching somehow, I don't know how that's possible. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a subscription if you don't mind. And jump on board with the Kings Beat. We're growing like crazy still. It's been a lot of fun. This is episode 101 of the Kings Beat podcast. I do believe, though, it's officially what people have seen. It's episode 100. There may have been a lost
What?
episode hiding out there somewhere, a lost episode. So this could very well be the
You deceived me.
no, like in the number system, this is 100 when I post, but there might be one that I skipped. I kept the number but didn't put out there, and so it's possible this could be number 100.
Oh, you bastard. How did you do that?
You bastard. It's a long story.
Okay.
One of these days, we'll regale you with that story, Sean Cunningham, of the lost episode of the King's Beat podcast.
The lost tapes. I like
The
it.
lost tapes. All right, so that's going to do it for this edition of the King's Beat podcast. Thanks for joining us. For Fox 40, Sean Cunningham and Brenden Nunes from the King's Pulse podcast. I'm James Hamm, Kings Insider for ESPN 1320 and the King's Beat. See ya.